Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to kick off today's presentation on case studies and research methods for environmental psychology. This is the first slide, so I'd like to briefly introduce what we'll be covering. We'll explore different research approaches used in environmental psychology and look at how case studies can provide valuable insights. Let's dive in and see what this fascinating field is all about. Let's take a closer look at the methods used by environmental psychologists. These professionals rely on a variety of approaches to understand how our surroundings influence our behavior and well-being. They often use observational techniques, where they carefully watch how people interact with different environments. This helps identify what works well and what might need improvement. In addition, surveys and interviews are common tools. They provide direct insights from individuals about their experiences and perceptions of their environments. Experiments are also frequently conducted, allowing psychologists to test specific variables in controlled settings to see how changes can impact behavior. Another important method is the use of case studies, which involve detailed examinations of particular environments or communities. These methods are all crucial because they allow environmental psychologists to gather meaningful data that can inform better design and policy decisions. By combining these approaches, they can develop a comprehensive understanding of the complex relationship between people and their environments. This, ultimately, supports the overall goal of creating spaces that enhance our quality of life. Let's take a closer look at the methods used by environmental psychologists. These professionals rely on a variety of approaches to understand how our surroundings influence our behavior and well-being. One key method is observational studies, where they carefully watch how people interact with different environments in real-life settings. This helps identify patterns and triggers that affect our mental states. Another important approach is conducting experiments, which allow psychologists to test specific environmental factors in controlled settings. By manipulating variables, they can see how changes in lighting, noise, or layout impact people's responses. Surveys and interviews are also widely used, providing direct insight into people's perceptions and feelings about their environments. This qualitative data is invaluable for understanding subjective experiences. Lastly, environmental psychologists often employ interdisciplinary techniques, combining insights from architecture, urban planning, and even biology to develop a comprehensive view of how environments shape us. All these methods work together to build a deeper understanding, guiding us toward creating spaces that promote health, comfort, and productivity, core themes of our overall discussion. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. What is content analyses, behavior mapping, and cognitive mapping? These are all interesting methods used to understand how people interact with their environments and information. Content analyses involve systematically examining communication or media content to identify patterns, themes, or biases. It's like taking a close look at what people are saying or writing to uncover underlying messages or trends. Behavior mapping, on the other hand, tracks how individuals move and behave within a space. This helps us see where people spend their time, what areas attract the most activity, and how they navigate their surroundings. Then we have cognitive mapping, which is about understanding how people perceive and mentally organize spaces. It reveals how individuals conceptualize their environment, which influences their decision-making and behavior. Together, these methods give us a comprehensive view of human interaction, both in terms of communication and physical movement, highlighting their importance in our overall study. By applying these tools, we can better interpret the complex relationship between people and their environments, which ties back to our broader goal of understanding human behavior in context. So on this slide, we're diving into some key methods used in our analysis process. First up, we have analyses of physical traces. This involves examining tangible evidence left behind, like footprints, wear patterns, or other material clues that can tell us a lot about past activities or behaviors. It's a crucial way to gather insights from what's physically available. Next, we look at environmental simulations. This means creating models or recreations of environmental conditions to better understand how certain factors influence outcomes. It's really useful for testing hypotheses or predicting how systems behave under different scenarios. And finally, we have needs assessment. This is about identifying what is truly required, whether it's resources, skills, or solutions. By understanding the specific needs, we can tailor our approaches more effectively and ensure that our interventions are relevant and impactful. All these methods connect back to our overall theme of understanding complex systems and making informed decisions. They provide different lenses through which we can analyze and interpret the data, ultimately enhancing our ability to respond effectively. Let's talk about what a simulation study in psychology really is. Essentially, these studies use controlled and replicated environments. Think of them as carefully crafted worlds where we can observe human behavior and cognition. These environments are often immersive, meaning participants might be fully engaged in virtual reality or physical models that mimic real-world settings. The key advantage here is that these simulations allow us to test hypotheses about decision-making, understanding statistical concepts, and even planning future research, all while maintaining a high level of experimental control. That means we can eliminate confounding variables and extraneous factors that might otherwise muddy our observations. Examples of these simulation environments range from virtual reality setups to physical models. The goal is always to create high-fidelity, yet safe, settings where we can observe behavior and cognition without real-world risks. Overall, simulation studies are a powerful tool in psychology because they offer a controlled way to explore complex human processes, helping us develop better interventions and deepen our understanding of the mind. Let's walk through the key steps involved in conducting simulation studies. First, we start with defining our objectives clearly, understanding what we want to investigate or demonstrate through the simulation. Next, we design the simulation model itself, which involves setting up the parameters, assumptions, and the overall framework that mimics real-world processes. After that, we move on to the data generation phase, where we create the simulated data based on our model. This step is crucial because the quality of our data directly impacts the validity of our study. Once we have our data, we perform the analysis, applying the statistical or computational methods we've chosen to interpret the simulated data. Finally, we interpret the results, considering how they align with our initial objectives and what insights they provide. We also evaluate the robustness of our findings by running multiple simulations or sensitivity analyses. These steps ensure that our simulation study is thorough, reliable, and meaningful, tying back to our overall goal of understanding complex systems through modeling. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Let's talk about the importance of research methods in environmental psychology. Each of these methods and techniques has its own strengths and weaknesses, so understanding them helps us choose the right tools for our studies. In most cases, it's actually best to use multiple methods that complement each other, because this gives us a more complete picture of how people and their environments interact. By combining different approaches, we can address the complexity of the person-environment transaction more effectively. And of course, since we're working with human participants, ethical considerations are always at the forefront. We have a responsibility to address any ethical concerns that arise, making sure that the research benefits society without causing unnecessary harm or social costs. So, integrating various methods thoughtfully, while keeping ethics in mind, really helps us deepen our understanding and make meaningful contributions in environmental psychology. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide.